On today's show, the Cavs need to make a splash if they want to win LeBron. Who could that splash be? We'll talk about it on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to the latest edition of Locked On Cavs, where today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. On today's show, we will talk about the latest LeBron James rumors. There have been a few little updates if you want to read into things that are worth discussing, that are worth bringing up a little bit. We'll talk about what the Cavs might need to do in order to fortify their roster to make a LeBron James reunion in Cleveland possible. And then we will also, at the end of the show, take a little bit of a look ahead to NBA Summer League for the Cavs, because they did announce their roster on Thursday for the upcoming NBA Summer League. But the Cavs are in a situation, and I talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show, where they need to improve this roster regardless of LeBron James. Like, I think that LeBron James would help them a lot. Adding him to this roster would fix a lot of their problems, but I don't think that they can go into next season only adding LeBron James. I think that they need to be in a position to where they're adding LeBron James to a somewhat different roster than what they've got right now. I'm not saying that they need to completely overhaul things. I'm not saying that they need to find a way to trade Donovan Mitchell or Evan Mobley. Those things are not happening. Those guys are going to be on the Cavs. James Harden is going to be on the Cavs. But I think that they need to make some tweaks in some other areas to maybe make this a little bit of a more enticing situation for LeBron. Because I think when you look at the LeBron situation, when you look at what he's looking for, right, and what have been the things that we have heard so frequently, it's happiness. It's an opportunity to win. I think if you've watched enough LeBron, and, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know LeBron, but I think LeBron likes a good story. I think most guys like a good story. And I don't think there's a better story out there than returning back to where it all started. But I think it needs to make sense for that to be the case. So I look at this from a perspective of what are the Cavs doing in order to make LeBron think that Cleveland is the best place for him to be. Because I do think Cleveland is on the short list of the places that would be the best from a storyline standpoint, from a basketball standpoint. Like, there are some basketball situations, and if LeBron just wanted to go out there and try and win a title, he'd sign with San Antonio. Now, the Spurs don't have interest in him, and they signed Harrison Barnes, or agreed to a contract with Harrison Barnes the other day. So it's not as if that was ever the case. But if this was strictly a ring chasing thing, it'd be San Antonio, it'd be Oklahoma City. Like, that's what it would be. That's not what this is, very clearly. But I look at this and think the Cavs right now, as is, if you add LeBron, are they good enough to win the title? I don't know. I think it's close, because that was a team that, I get it, they got swept in the conference finals this past spring. Totally understand that. But I don't think that they were as far away from the Knicks as a 4-0 sweep. I think that was a closer series than maybe the final score, the final tally of that series would indicate, because the Cavs were out of gas. And I do think LeBron would have changed some things about their postseason. But I also look at this and say the Cavs did not get better yet. They've gotten worse since that series. They've lost Dean Wade, who was a big part of what they do, and they lost Keon Ellis. And I understand that Keon necessarily didn't have a huge on-court impact because he was not in the rotation during the postseason. So I do get both sides of that. But I look at this, and to me, they need to find a way to get better. And I think that they need to think about going out and making a splash before LeBron decides, because I don't think this is going to be a thing. And maybe I'll be wrong here. Maybe we will get this and LeBron will decide tomorrow. I'd be very surprised if that happens. I do not think that a decision from LeBron James is imminent. Of course, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again about some things, but I don't get the sense that LeBron deciding on where he's going to play next is an imminent type of thing. So I get to the point where, what can the Cavs do to make Cleveland a better landing spot for LeBron? And I do think it's rearranging the roster a little bit. I think it's making some changes to this roster to where they can look at LeBron and say, hey, maybe the old roster that we had wasn't the best fit for you. There's still a lot of talent on this team. This is a very talented basketball team. That's absolutely true. But can the Cavs go out there and make a tweak or two that makes this a better situation for LeBron? I think they can. And there are a couple of guys that I look at that are still available, because we have obviously had some big moves that have already happened this offseason. The Giannis trade, obviously Jaylen Brown being traded yesterday. Those things have already happened. And the Cavs can't get involved there, right? But there are some guys that I do wonder. I wonder if the Cavs can get involved with a few different players. And the first guy I want to talk about is Anthony Davis. And a lot of the reporting has been that the Wizards are not interested in trading Anthony Davis. And Davis has not played a single game for Washington after they acquired him via trade from Dallas during this past season. The Wizards did not give up a ton to get Anthony Davis. I thought that was a very light package that they sent back to Dallas. And then he didn't play because of an injury. And the reporting was that the Wizards want to hang on to him. And I understand that. Anthony Davis is a very good player. Anthony Davis is somebody that does not, however, fit the current timeline of that roster. And I wonder how much of that reporting is the Wizards don't want to trade him versus the Wizards didn't want what the Warriors had to offer. Because Anthony Davis, I can assure you, and this is true of many more players than just Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis has a price. There is a price out there that if you offer the Wizards blank X, whatever, in a trade, that they will say, okay, we'll give you Anthony Davis. He's not some untouchable player in Washington. He's a player they would probably like to see play alongside Trae Young, play alongside AJ DeBonsa, play alongside some of the young pieces that they have there, Alex Sarr, right? Like you would probably want to see AD play in that situation. But if you pay enough, if you give up enough in a trade, I do believe the Wizards would probably make him available. And what I do think is unquestionably the case is that if the Cavs wanted to make an offer for Anthony Davis, they would have a much better offer for Anthony Davis than anything Golden State could have put together. Because that Golden State offer would have been Jimmy Butler and a pick. And Jimmy Butler is 36 years old and coming off of a torn ACL, and we don't know when he's going to play again. Where if the Cavs make a trade for Anthony Davis, it would probably look like something along the lines of Jared Allen and Max Strus and a draft pick. And that is much better than anything Golden State can offer. So I do wonder, is that something that could be on the table? If it is, I think the Wizards have to listen. Maybe Jalen Tyson needs to be involved. If Jalen Tyson's involved, I don't think a draft pick needs to be involved. But I do think Anthony Davis is somebody that we should keep an eye on. And again, maybe the Wizards are telling the truth, that they truly don't want to trade him. But I also have not gotten the sense that they're super eager to extend him. And I don't think that, whoever Anthony Davis is going to get a contract extension from somebody in all likelihood. And I don't think it's going to be one that ages super well. But if you're playing for the here and now, the way the Cavs very clearly are, then this could be a situation where you say, hey, those years might be tough. But if you get LeBron because of it, and you have a starting five then of Anthony Davis, Evan Mobley, LeBron James, James Harden, and Donovan Mitchell, that's really, really good. And you can figure out some of the other pieces later. And you still have some other pieces on the roster to where you can make things work. But I look at Anthony Davis and say, that's somebody the Cavs should have their eye on. Trey Murphy III is another guy that I say the same thing about. So Trey Murphy and the Pelicans, they have what I think is kind of an outrageous asking price for Trey Murphy III. Like they want the sun, the moon, and the stars to trade him. And I don't necessarily understand exactly what New Orleans is doing because they also do want to trade Zion. And I've talked through a Zion trade here or there, but some of the events of the NBA so far over the past couple of days kind of made me revisit this because seeing what some of the money that centers have gotten across the NBA, like the contract that Walker Kessler got and what the Lakers gave up via trade to get him from the Utah Jazz, that was a lot. And is Walker Kessler a better player than Jared Allen? I don't think so. Jared Allen is on a much more manageable contract than him. Jared Allen's going to be making $28 million this year, $30 million next year, 32 after that. Like that's a contract that you would rather have than the deal that Walker Kessler has. So I do wonder if we need to reevaluate how valuable Jared Allen could be on the trade market. Because when I went through some fake trades, I think this was last week at this point, when I went through some fake trades, or maybe it was Monday, either way, whatever. Maybe you listen, maybe you didn't. But I did not have a fake trade for Trey Murphy because I didn't think the Cavs had enough to get him because the Cavs only have one tradable first round draft pick. So I didn't think that they had enough in terms of draft capital to put together a trade for Trey Murphy. But I do wonder if there's a package out there and you would need to kind of finagle things a little bit because the the salary of Trey Murphy is a very affordable one. He's only making $27 million this upcoming season, which obviously is $1 million less than what Jared Allen is making. So if you're the Cavs and you want to trade like Jared Allen for Trey Murphy, straight up, probably not going to happen. But Jared Allen and a pick for Trey Murphy, probably not going to happen. But could Jared Allen and Max Strus and Jalen Tyson and a pick, could that be enough to get Trey Murphy and Herb Jones? Could that be enough to get, because that's a trade that works. Like from a financial standpoint, that is a trade that works. If you gave the Pelicans Jared Allen, Max Strus, who it does feel like Max is going to be on the move at some point, and Jalen Tyson, and like that is a painful trade if you're the Cavs. Giving up on Jalen Tyson, I think, is a tough thing to do, because I think Jalen is going to have a great career. I think he has all-star potential. But if you can do that, if you could get those two wings, is that enough to make this roster better to the point where LeBron looks at this team on paper and goes, that's a championship caliber team if you put me on it? I think it might be. That's one of the deals that I look at. I don't know if the Pelicans would say yes to that, because the sense that I've gotten is the Pelicans, truthfully, I don't think they actually want to trade Trey Murphy. I think they want to hang on to Trey Murphy so that they can like have, because he's a good player. I think he's become a little bit overrated because of how highly the Pelicans have valued him. But I do think that they want to hang on to him. And the fact that they have hung on to him kind of tells me that that's the case. And then the other name that has popped up a ton, and I've not seen anything real about this player. I've not seen anything like, yes, he's available, or yes, the Cavs are interested in trading for him. Like, it's all been these internet rumors that have made their way to me. And I've been asked about this like 7 times in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to bring it up on the show. But that's Lauri Markkanen. And I've been given no indication that Lauri is available. I doubt that he would be. I think that the Utah Jazz very much like Lauri Markkanen. I think the Utah Jazz, despite the fact that losing Walker Kessler is a big loss for them, I get the sense that they want to be good this year. They want to put together a playoff caliber basketball team. And if they trade Lauri Markkanen, not so sure that they're going to be able to do that. But if the Cavs traded Jalen Tyson and Max Strus and Jared Allen and a first-round pick to Utah, is that enough for Lauri Markkanen? It could be. That's something I look at and say that could be enough to make that move happen. If the Cavs have a starting 5 of Evan Mobley and Lauri Markkanen, LeBron James, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, that's an elite level starting group. And you figure the rest out later. And I do think, while losing Jalen Tyson would be really, really painful for the Cavs, I think they'd be able to figure some things out on the other end. And then one other name, Michael Porter Jr., I think could make some sense. I don't know how available he is. The Nets do not own their draft pick this upcoming year. So that's one thing that I look at, and I wonder if they just want to be better, if they want to compete for a play-in spot. And if they want to do that, despite the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is an expiring contract, I think he's a guy that they would probably like to hang on to if they can. Now, we got some small updates, not anything big, not anything groundbreaking, but we got some small updates as it pertains to LeBron James and his free agency on Thursday. We'll talk about what those were, and we'll talk about what I've heard next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The best time in soccer is here. The biggest tournament in soccer is here. Soccer is on the world stage, and every match feels like it's got the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, the momentum of the game, right? Did you watch Team USA on Wednesday night take on Bosnia? That red card, ridiculous. The second goal they scored on the free kick was awesome. And now USA is going to move on. They're going to play in the round of 16 against Belgium on Monday. And Team USA is a slight favorite. Right now, they are minus 116 on FanDuel to win that game. But this is every goal score, or every goal, like it pays to score goals, right? It's every goal pays. So if you bet on a match, you get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. So like we have been doing, we are going to look at the goal scorers. Both teams to score minus 158 in that game. I think that probably does happen. Don't necessarily love the value. Number of team goals. Team USA to score exactly 2 goals plus 240. I think this could be a 2-1 win for the red, white, and blue. If that's the case, you could win big on FanDuel. So head to FanDuel.com right now to get a benefit from each goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. That is FanDuel, FanDuel.com to get started today. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first watch on YouTube or your first listen each and every day, no matter where you get your podcast. If you are watching live, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, click that notification bell, and hit subscribe wherever you might be getting your podcast. It is the very best way to help grow this show. The race for LeBron is still on, and it is one. Oh, and by the way, I will say, if you're watching live on YouTube, we're going to do the same thing we've been doing the past couple of days. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments. I will get to them. We're going to close the show out after the third segment, and I'll hang out for another 15 minutes, and we will have a Q&A. So if you've got questions, drop them in the comments, and I will get to them after the show. But the race for LeBron is still on, and it's one that I don't necessarily, like I said in the first segment, get the sense is going to wrap up in the near future. I think it's going to be one that drags out. I heard from one person maybe as late as like going into summer league. I don't know if it'll take that long, but we will have to wait and see. And I told you guys yesterday that I felt better about the Cavs landing LeBron than I did the day before, or than I did 48 hours before. And I am here to tell you today that I feel better right now at 9:40 on Thursday evening. I feel better right now than I did 24 hours ago. I have talked to people around the league, and the sense that I have gotten is nobody truly knows what's going to happen. Like, I've not gotten anybody that has said, I genuinely believe LeBron is going to do this. I really think LeBron is going to end up here. It's sort of been I don't have a great idea, but I think it's Cleveland. And that's been the consistent thing that I've gotten from multiple people, is that there's not necessarily a great idea that LeBron's going to be in Cleveland, but I've not heard from anybody at this point. And I think if I would have asked this question to people, or when I did ask this question to people over the weekend, like Golden State was a more popular answer. And now that answer is Cleveland. And I can't tell you exactly what has changed as far as that has gone, but the people that I've heard from think that he's going to end up in Cleveland. And that is something that, yes, these things can change. And this is not a, put it in stone, print the jerseys, buy your season tickets type of thing. But I do get the sense that the Cavs are the team to beat right now. Now, it doesn't mean like this is over by any stretch of the imagination, but if you also look at what Anthony Slater of ESPN said, I believe this was on a radio hit that he did, is the sense that he's gotten from the Warriors is that they're not the leaders right now. And I do think at one point, it did feel like Golden State was in the driver's seat. It did feel like Golden State was the team to beat for LeBron James. Now it doesn't feel that way. Like, I have not heard from anybody right now that feels like, it's still the Warriors. LeBron is still Golden State's to lose. At some point, I felt like that. It's over the weekend. At times, I felt like that. I don't feel like that right now. I don't. And I've not felt like that for probably 48 hours. And I don't necessarily, I'm not to the point where I feel as if LeBron is the Cavs to lose. I feel like they're in the lead. And I think the most likely situation is that he ends up back in Cleveland. But I don't get the sense that this is something that's done. But I also look at some of the other teams, like Minnesota has been brought up a lot. I cannot see LeBron in Minnesota. I don't see that happening. Philly brought up. Obviously, there's that connection, and there was that photo that was floating around on Twitter the other night of Mike Gansey and LeBron James, because they were both basketball players in Northeast Ohio at the same time. And Mike Gansey was a heck of a basketball player at Olmsted Falls back in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s. There's been that photo floating around. Like, I would be really surprised if he ends up in Philly. I've not heard a lot of Miami stuff lately. Like, to me, I still would think that it's Cleveland or Golden State. It still feels like it's one of those two teams. And it feels more like Cleveland and Golden State right now. Now, that doesn't mean that things can't change. That doesn't mean that this can't flip back the other way. But as of right now, I think Cavs fans should feel good. Now, it doesn't mean that this is done. And I cannot say that. I'm trying to preface this as many times as I can. But I do think that as of right now, the Cavs should feel good about where they stand. And I think that they should feel good for a number of different reasons. But I will say that they need to go out and do some stuff to make this happen. I do think that if they want to add LeBron, which they do want to add LeBron, they need to improve this roster. Because like I said in the first segment, I do not think that this roster, if you just add LeBron James to it right now, I don't think that this roster is good enough. If you make some upgrades and add LeBron, yes, this roster can 100% be good enough to go out and win the title next year. No doubt about it. Absolutely believe that. But I do think that everything that I've seen and everything too, and this is not new information, but we've talked about it's happiness. It's an opportunity to win, to compete at the highest level, all of those things. And Cleveland, I think, checks more boxes than everybody else. Like, how much does happiness matter to LeBron? I don't know. How happy would LeBron be in Minnesota? I don't know. Like, that would be a competitive situation. I don't know that he'd be happy living in Minneapolis. And Minneapolis is a great city, but it is not a lot of fun to live there in January. I can tell you from experience. How happy would he be in Philly? I don't know. How happy would he be in Denver? Maybe a little happier. But from a storyline standpoint, from a basketball standpoint, from a happiness standpoint, Cleveland seems to be the place to me. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a little too close to the situation, because I'm here in Cleveland, because I cover the Cavs, right? Maybe that colors my view of things. But the way I see it is the Cavs check more boxes than anybody else. They do. Now, like I said, they have to go out. They have to improve this roster. They need to go out there and try and make a splash, probably in the trade market, because they were never going to be a team that made a splash in free agency. That was not what things were going to be, right? They didn't have the money to do that. And I also will say it's not coincidental that we don't know how much money James Harden's going to make next year. That is not a coincidental thing, because if the Cavs don't find a way to upgrade the roster, James is going to make more money. If the Cavs find a way to upgrade the roster, James is going to take less money than what he would have been making. And upgrading that roster involves LeBron. And I think it involves trying to add somebody else in addition to LeBron. I don't know who that person could be. Maybe it's Anthony Davis. Maybe it's Michael Porter Jr. Maybe it's somebody else. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that the Cavs need to find a way to upgrade that roster. And if they do, because right now I feel good about adding LeBron, but if they find a way to upgrade that roster, I think everybody's going to feel a little bit better about adding LeBron. Now, the NBA has Summer League coming up, and the Cavs will be taking part in it. They announced the roster. There was one, maybe not a surprise, but one omission that we needed to talk about, plus what to watch for as that goes closer next right here on Locked on Cavs. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first watch on YouTube. If you're watching right now, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. And after the show is done on YouTube, because I'm recording this live, if you've got questions, I'll hang out for like 15, 20 minutes afterwards. We'll chat about everything, LeBron stuff, not LeBron stuff. If you've got questions, drop them in the live chat. I will get to as many as I can in like 15 or 20 minutes after the show. If you're not watching live, maybe I'll put that part up as a bonus podcast. Maybe. We'll see. But if you're watching live and you got questions, that's the way to do it. But NBA Summer League kicks off for the Cavs. I believe a week from today. It is July 9th. I don't know if the Cavs play on the 9th. I do not remember their schedule. But they did put out their Summer League roster on Thursday afternoon. And the one name that was missing, that was absent, is Tyrese Proctor. So Proctor is set to play in FIBA qualifiers with the Australian national team. That begins tomorrow. So if you want to wake up early and watch Tyrese Proctor play basketball, Australia is playing Guam tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning Eastern time. So you can watch Tyrese Proctor play basketball this summer, just not for the Summer League Cavs, which, like, I think it ultimately, that is a good place for Tyrese to be. It is like, I'm a little bummed to not be able to get to watch him in Vegas, and I will be in Vegas for Summer League for at least part of it in a couple of weeks. But not having Tyrese Proctor was the guy that I was most looking forward to seeing before the news of him playing for the Australian national team came out. But some notable names, Naquan Tomlin is the only guy, and Malik Thomas, I guess, too. Those are the two guys that are on standard contracts with the Cavs that will be playing Summer League. And I think that they're going to be viewed very, very differently. So with Naquan, he, I think, is in a position maybe not equal to the position of Jalen Tyson last year, where with Jalen, it was he needs to look like he doesn't belong. And Jalen did look like he didn't belong. Like he did not finish Summer League because it was like, okay, you're a little bit too good for this level. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Naquan, but that should be, I think, the expectation for him, or at least close to it. Maybe it's, you play all of Summer League, but you were the best player on the team type of thing. Because Naquan is going into his third NBA season. I know he was a two-way that first year, but he's going into his second year on a standard contract. This should be a situation where he stands out in a good way. Naquan Tomlin should look like a beast at Summer League. And if he doesn't, that I think then becomes something that can be a little bit concerning. Tristan Enaruna, who was on a two-way with the Cavs last year, he's on a two-way right now. I'm really interested to see him. So he's a wing. He's got good size. The Cavs, they list him at 6'8", 220. He shot the cover off the basketball last year with the Cleveland Charge in the G League. Like, he had an awesome season shooting, and it was really the first time that he had been an elite level shooter. He had been an okay shooter at times, but he really took a huge jump last year as a shooter. And I'm fascinated if that holds up, because if he's the level of shooter that he showed he could be in the G League last year, then he's an NBA player. Then he's somebody that will get a standard contract at some point from the Cavs and could potentially find himself part of the rotation. Like, one of the things that I remember, and I guess this would be if I were to put a goal for Tristan Enaruna, it's when I left Vegas last year. The way that I hope, I guess the best way to say this is, if I leave Vegas on July 17th, my flight back is, if I leave Vegas feeling like, you know what, in a year, I could see Tristan Enaruna being part of the Cavs rotation, then I think that would be a really good thing. And when I left Vegas last year, I thought to myself, I could see, maybe not this upcoming season, and of course, a lot of things went wrong, so he was part of this, but I could see a year from now, Naquan Tomlin playing rotational minutes. And as of right now, Naquan Tomlin is playing rotational minutes for the Cavs. And he did a little bit last year. But as of now, this upcoming season, Naquan should be expected. Now, if they make roster changes, that might obviously change a little bit. But Naquan should be expected to play some rotational minutes. Riley Minix is another guy. He was on a two-way. There were some rumors about him potentially signing overseas. That obviously has not happened. We'll see what he looks like this summer. He's a really good shooter. And then obviously Malik Thomas. So we were introduced to Malik with his opening press conference on Tuesday. Very confident young man. Very excited to see what he's going to be able to do. He's going to play point guard for the Cavs at Summer League. It'll be an interesting thing. It's going to be our first look. And I think anytime you get your first look at a rookie guard, who was like, I don't want to say a high pick. He was a second round pick, but the first pick that the Cavs had in that draft, I'm excited to see what he's able to bring to the table, how he acclimates to the NBA. I think it'll be an exciting time. So don't want to spend too much time talking about Summer League. Obviously, there are bigger and more important things going on with the Cavs right now, but that is something that was announced on Thursday. Just wanted to briefly talk about it before we get out of here. So that's going to do it for the podcast edition of the show on YouTube. If you're watching live right now, or if you're just watching back, we'll stick around, have a Q&A afterwards for about 15 minutes. So get your questions in the comments. But if you're a podcast listener, please do me a favor, make sure that you are subscribed, because I do not want you to miss the next edition of the show. The Cavs are going to do something at some point, and when they do, I will have an emergency edition of Locked on Cavs to have you covered. So make sure you're subscribed on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever you might get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I will have another full edition of Locked on Cavs whenever the Cleveland Cavaliers do something. And if they don't do anything, I'll be back on Monday talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Appreciate it. Like doing these live shows. This has been a lot of fun. We'll be going through some Q&A now. Give me a second to read the chat. First one I see, everyone see that Rokia walk-off? Yes. So I have a tablet as I'm doing the show. I have an iPad that's next to me right here. So I had the game on my iPad. And if you scroll back, you can probably see my face change when I see the ball hit the foul pole. Like I had the game on a second screen watching, so I did see the Rokia walk off, and I did not feel good about that. I watched most of that game. Part of the reason why the show was a little late getting here was because I was watching that game and I was incredibly frustrated by that game. But I'm very happy to see the Cavs win. So let's get to some comments here. Farewell Tour, storybook ending, a statue in Cleveland documentary, minority ownership in the franchise. I think all of those things could happen. I mean, a statue in Cleveland is going to happen. There is no doubt about that. Statue in Cleveland will be happening. When it will happen, I don't exactly know, but a statue in Cleveland will happen. And I think like this is, like I said, the storybook ending for LeBron James. I do not think there's a better way for, and I believe I said this on 92.3 last night. I don't think that there's a better way for what I think has been the greatest career in NBA history. Now, if you don't want to go out there and say LeBron's the greatest to ever play the game, fine. I disagree with you, but fine. But I don't think there's a debate like that LeBron has the greatest career with everything that he's accomplished. I know, 6 rings for Jordan. Like, no. What LeBron has accomplished, I think, is greater than that, especially when you factor in all of the accomplishments more than just the rings. And this would be the very best way, I think, to close that chapter, to close the book. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now we'll see what happens. Big time B, Donovan and Dennis for Durant, Reed Shepard and a Phoenix first-round pick. Then trade Jared Allen, Max Strus, Sam Merrill, and 2 first-round picks. And one that is, I do not love all of that. That is, I would not want to give up Donovan Mitchell. And I don't think the Cavs are going to give up Donovan Mitchell. That is a very, because you get really old with that trade. Having Kevin Durant and LeBron James would have been really fun 10 years ago. I don't know that Kevin Durant is a lot of fun right now. I will just kind of leave it like that. No team that he is on seems to really enjoy their time together. So I did not necessarily think that would be a great thing. Anthony Davis for no, if the Cavs trade for Anthony, the Cavs are not trading Evan Mobley. I feel really good about that. Like if they would have traded Evan Mobley, it would have been for Giannis. That obviously didn't happen. And then if they would have traded Evan Mobley for Jaylen Brown, which I thought was a bad idea, but the players available now, like still available to the Cavs. So you've got Giannis up here, and then Jaylen Brown is lesser than him, and Anthony Davis is lesser than Jaylen Brown. Like if the Cavs were not willing to trade Evan Mobley for a top 5 player in basketball in Giannis, they're not going to be willing to trade him for Anthony Davis. Like that is just, I think that is something that we need to keep in mind here. We should go for Rui or Kuminga. Rui Hachimura, and I talked about this yesterday on the show. Rui would be a really good fit here. If they get LeBron, I think he'd be a great fit here. Even if they don't get LeBron and they want to use their mid-level exception, and I think it's interesting Rui is still available. But I think Rui would be a really good fit in Cleveland. He is somebody that the Cavs should absolutely 100% have interest in. Jonathan Kuminga, I've got my doubts about that happening. I don't necessarily think he's a great fit. I think that he is somebody that wants a bigger role than what's going to be afforded to him, especially in Cleveland. And like, he has been on winning teams, right? He's been in Golden State where they've been really good. He was in Atlanta this past year where they were pretty good, and it hasn't worked out there. So why would it work out in Cleveland? And I get it. The Cavs have a need on the wing. No doubt about that. And theoretically, Jonathan Kuminga makes a lot of sense, but in reality, I don't think that he makes as much sense in the reality as maybe he does on paper. Lowry would be sweet for the Cavs. I don't see that happening. I would be stunned if Lowry Markkanen gets traded to the Cavs or to anybody else. But I guess we have to wait and see. Like, there's going to be another surprise that happens in the NBA. I don't know what it is. There's going to be another surprise that happens. If LeBron doesn't sign here, what's the pivot? That, I think, has been something that if you're a Cavs fan, it's okay to start feeling a little worried about that. It does, to me, feel like the Cavs have a lot of eggs in the LeBron basket. Like, they have a lot of eggs in the LeBron basket. I don't know what the pivot is if they don't get LeBron. And I kind of built the show around this yesterday, is that LeBron went from going into this offseason, it felt like LeBron was a want, and now it feels like LeBron is a need. And the Cavs are going to be good no matter what, but unless they get LeBron, I don't know exactly how they're able to build a championship contender, right? I don't know what that looks like. I think LeBron is a much more important piece to who they could be moving forward than we would have thought he would have been prior to it. Would you do Jared Allen for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford? I'd be more interested if it were PJ Washington and Najee Marshall. I would be. Now I would maybe do Jared Allen for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford if you also get off of Dennis Schroeder's contract in that trade. If you can trade Allen and Schroeder for Washington and Gafford, maybe. I think that's a tough one. The Cavs are giving up the best player in that trade. Maybe if you could also get some sort of pick back too, that would be good, like a second round draft pick or something. Maybe that could be something. But I think PJ Washington is still interesting. Get Zion if possible. Zion is a good buy low candidate. He is. I don't know if that's going to be something that happens for the Cavs, but I think he's a good buy low candidate for them or anybody. But I don't think there's a ton of interest in Zion across the league, because if there were, I think the Pelicans would have traded him already. Like, I think that they would like to move on from him, but I don't think that there's a lot of interest across the NBA in that deal. Trey Murphy, we talked about. Michael Porter Jr., I think he'd be a good fit. And I talked about him a little bit yesterday, where he's better than what you think he was if you think about Denver, but he's worse than what you think he was if you think you're getting the Brooklyn version of him. And could that make sense? Like, theoretically makes a lot of sense for the Cavs. He's not a good defender on the wing, which does hurt, but he's a shooter and he's big and he can help in a lot of different ways. So that's just, I don't know. I don't know if he's available, because I do think that the Nets want to be better. Jonathan Isaac on a prove a deal. Isaac signed back with Orlando. Like, they cut him and then re-signed him for another deal. So just at lesser money. So that is not something that I would anticipate happening, because he is no longer a free agent. Let me look for a couple of more here. Does it indicate anything that we've heard nothing about what the Cavs are trying to do? Feel like we haven't even heard rumors of them trying to do anything. So I talked about this, I think, a little bit yesterday, or it might have been on 92.3 yesterday. It does feel like under Kobe Altman, the Cavs have kind of moved in silence. Like, we don't hear a ton about what they might do until something is pretty close to being done. And that's not a coincidence. Like, I do think that they like to keep their cards close to the vest if they can. So I don't think that things have been quiet because they've not been trying to do things. I think things have been quiet on purpose. I think that the Cavs want these things to be quiet as they look to, how they can improve this team, because this is not as if, Kobe's been vacationing. Kobe's been on the phones. He's been trying to make trades happen. He's been trying to improve this roster. I know that stuff for certain. I know they poked around on Jaylen Brown. Now, whether or not them not getting him is a failure or a disaster, different conversation, but I know that they poked around there. So I do think that they are trying to do things. It hasn't happened yet. And I think if you look at their history, like the Donovan Mitchell thing, that came out of nowhere. The Cavs' biggest moves have kind of come out of nowhere under Kobe Altman. And I wonder if there's a big move yet to come that is going to come out of nowhere, because with Kobe Altman, these things kind of happen in the dark, if you will. I appreciate all the questions. That's going to do it for this Q&A version of Locked On Cavs, this little bonus version of Locked On Cavs. Appreciate everybody hanging out. This has been a lot of fun going live over the past couple of days. Obviously, as updates with LeBron happen or Cavs free agency happens, I will continue to go live on YouTube. I will have podcasts. Even if you watch this live on YouTube, please make sure you download the podcast. That really does help me, helps me be able to do more content, helps me be able to do more stuff for you guys. Really enjoy getting to do this. So as we get out of here, hit the thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, hit that notification bell, tell a friend, watch it again, do all those things, help Locked On Cavs, because the better Locked On Cavs can be, the better I want to be for you. So again, appreciate everybody hanging out. Might be back tomorrow if the Cavs do something. If not, I will be back on Sunday at the latest right here at Locked On Cavs.